Okay. Heather Servais serves as a project manager with New Additions Consulting, Inc. She brings more than 20 years of experience in disability and employment vocational rehabilitation, with a career spanning federal, state, nonprofit, and private sectors. She has served in leadership roles, managing both small and large teams. Those teams have focused on supported employment, vocational evaluation, ticket to work, deaf and hard of hearing and deaf-blind services. Her work includes leading technical assistance efforts, developing training and resources, and collaborating with partners to support programs serving individuals with disabilities.
These.
Her experience includes work in vocational rehabilitation and Met waiver system, with a focus on improving service delivery, supporting strong employment outcomes. Heather has a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. She holds certifications as a certified rehabilitation counselor, or CRC, a certified vocational evaluator, or CVE, um, a certified rehabilitation leader, or CRL. Sorry, my screen reader just jumped. Give me one second. And project management professional, or PMP. Um, Lindsay Rassoull serves as a senior analyst on the National Clearinghouse for Rehabilitation Training Materials, a contract with New Additions Consulting, Inc. She is a certified rehabilitation counselor, or CRC, with a Master of Science in Rehabilitation Counseling from Virginia Commonwealth University, a Bachelor of Science in Rehabilitation Studies from the University of Florida, and a Vocational Evaluation Forensics Certificate from Walden University. She brings extensive experience in vocational rehabilitation. She previously served as the General and Operations Manager of the Learning and Development Office at the Florida Department of Education's Divisions of Vocational Rehabilitation, and oversourced data and programs such as supervisor and new counselor training. Her background includes developing new learning courses, evaluating training effectiveness, delivering staff development from a wide range of topics, and collaborating at national and university partners. With prior experience as a union supervisor and VR counselor, Lindsay offers a strong foundation in program operations. Heather and Lindsay, we are honored to have you join us today. Thank you for your time.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you, Andrea. We are so excited to be here with you today. So whether you're on the East Coast and enjoying your lunch, or maybe you're on the West Coast and joining us with a cup of coffee, we're glad to spend a few minutes with you today. I'm Heather Servais. I'm joined with Lindsay Rassoull. Like Andrea mentioned, we're both with New Additions Consulting, and we work on the National Clearinghouse of Rehabilitation Training Materials contract, and we're going to be here to talk to you all about it. So we know as rehab professionals, you have a lot on your plate, and we're hoping to make the most of your time today, and you'll walk away with a lot of new resources and knowing that you have some support here to help you. So we're going to kick it off with a little bit of a poll, and Lindsay is going to walk us through a little bit more because we want to know a little bit more from you. One of the things that we hear a lot is, I didn't know about NCRTM, or I wish I would have known about you earlier. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay and she'll walk us through the poll.
All right, so I just placed the poll in the chat and you should be able to see my screen. So we want to know, how familiar are you with the National Clearinghouse for Rehabilitation Training Materials? Are you very familiar, somewhat familiar, not familiar at all, or not very familiar? We'll give this just a second. And looks like we have a mixed bag right now, Heather. Nobody is very familiar. So you have not yet voted, Heather, is what I'm assuming, because we should at least have one person in here, right?
Don't worry. I'm sure after today somebody will become a super user. That's what our hope is.
All right, let's close this poll out in 3, 2, and 1. And
Perfect.
anything jump out to you before we move on to the next one?
I'm not surprised. And that's one of the things that we are here and we are so grateful to ARCA for having us because one of the things that we need help with is we need help getting these resources, getting the NCRTM and these resources out into the hands of the people doing the work. And you will find that we have materials. You heard in our title is that we have items for all types of VR and rehabilitation professionals, whether you're a new counselor or even student as you're going through your rehabilitation counseling training program, or if you're a supervisor or even an administrator or leader, we have materials that are there to support your work and your employment journey. So I am going to switch us back over to our PowerPoint so that we can start to dive into this content and you can learn a little bit more about NCRTM. So what are we going to do today? First, we want to talk a little bit about how NCRTM can support you as a professional, how it can also help you support your teams, and it may also be able to support your agency or organization as a whole. You're going to learn a lot more about the purpose and scope of NCRTM and exactly where we came from, what we can offer, and where we're going. We're going to help you understand some of the key features of our platform. So you'll hear a little bit about our history, but it continues to evolve. We continue to develop the website and its features and hoping to bring it to something that continues to be relevant for all VR professionals as they continue through their work journey. And at the end, we'll want you to learn how to connect with us. That's one of the most important things is we want to make sure you know how to stay in touch with us through our social media, through our listservs, through our library subscriptions, and most of all, having our contact information because one of the things about NCRTM is it's not just a system. You have a whole team here to support you, and we want you to feel comfortable reaching out with your questions. So we're going to move on to talk just a little bit. Lindsay and I are both rehab professionals. We've done a lot of different things. And so whether you are a VR counselor in a state agency, or maybe you're working as a job coach for an employment services community rehab provider, or even working in private practice, we know that the landscape in the current rehabilitation counseling, rehabilitation field is ever changing. We know one of the challenges always will be high staff turnover, even though there's been such great effort in the last few years to really look at recruitment and retention of qualified VR professionals. We know folks in state VR agencies and in those community rehab and direct service positions continue to kind of struggle. And there's this cycle of onboarding and training all along. And that can be difficult to manage when you're a manager, or if you're the counselor who's having to stay on to help manage those caseloads, we know that it can be a challenge for you too. We know that needs are shifting and priorities are changing. I know when we worked for VR, what we would always hear is like the only thing that stays the same is change. It felt like every day there was a new policy, a new procedure, a new workforce demand, a new technology, a new service being rolled out. So we know you have a lot on your plate and it feels like there's always a lot to learn. And that's one of the things we want to be able to give you is the resources and support. Because we know that we are almost in this place where there's like information overload, right? There's so many resources available. Sometimes it can be hard to find them. It's going to be hard to know what's up to date. It can be difficult sometimes to know that it's vetted. And so that's one of the great things about NCRTM is that you can count on the materials on our site being reputable, being from trusted sources. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to make your life easier, to know that you can come to our site and you're going to get accessible and trusted resources that you can use for yourself and your own professional development. We have resources that you can use that you can share directly with your customers. We have resources that can help you as you're working to train and develop your team. So to give you a little bit of background about NCRTM, it's been around for a long time. We sometimes kick off with this joke is like, what do the NCRTM, McDonald's, and Jason Momoa have in common? They're all the same age. A lot more people know about McDonald's and Jason Momoa than know about the NCRTM. And so we have been around for over 40 years. And what started as a paper-based system where the grantees that were funded by the Rehabilitation Services Administration would turn in their products, their final reports, the things that were the outcomes of the grant work that they were doing at the field would come to the NCRTM. Over the years, as we've become more digital, we've expanded from just being a repository of reports and information to something that's really vibrant and dynamic and growing. And we have a web platform that we continue to evolve and to add materials to. Later, Lindsay's going to walk us through some of the key pages that might be the most helpful for you in the course of your work. But one of the things I think really drew me to NCRTM is our focus on listening to customer feedback. We put a lot of stake into what people say and what their user experience is. So over the course of, I've been with the company about 5 years, we've made for the last 3 years have been really putting forward an effort to make the website experience more streamlined, to give more filtering options, and to just make it more user friendly because we do have a lot of great resources. We want to make sure you're able to get to them and access them as quickly as possible. So who uses NCRTM and who comes to the site and why do you need to know this? So NCRTM has a lot of different resources and we have users from all across the rehabilitation profession. So we have a large following from VR leaders. So those directors, those administrators, those program managers, they are some of our most frequent visitors to the site. VR counselors come to our site quite a bit to find some tools and resources. And one of the most important things, if you are a CRC and you are looking to get those CRC credits, a lot of VR counselors come to our site to learn more about what CRC credit options are available for free. We also have students and scholars. This is one of those things that I wish I would have known when I was going through my master's program. I wish I would have known about NCRTM because if I would have started it as a student and knowing I could locate best practices and evidence-based practices, I would have been a student from the get-go. I didn't find out about NCRTM until I was later in my journey, and I've already been working in the field for probably 10 to 12 years. We have researchers. We have researchers that submit their work to us that goes into our library. We also have researchers that come and pull materials as they're developing their work. So that's always a good thing to consider if you are an active researcher and looking for ways to share the work you're doing. We have businesses. We have businesses that are looking for ways to hire individuals with disabilities and make sure that their workplaces are accessible. And we have a side part of New Additions who operates this is our accessibility work and our accessibility team. And our 508 work is well known, and we're able to support businesses and their practices as they're working on making an accessible work environment. We also have a lot of individuals with disabilities that visit our site. We have an entire page, which Lindsay will go a little bit more into detail about, that's for individuals with disabilities and their families. And we also have employers that are coming to our site to look at it on the day-to-day. So we're going to go into a little bit more of the site, but first we're going to do another poll just to make sure you're all still awake. Nobody wants that post-launch crash. So I'm going to stop sharing so Lindsay can pull up our poll. And this is also a time, if you have some questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat too.
And actually, Heather, we have two polls. So this is the first one. So how do you typically look for resources and information to support your work? Like, so right now, if you needed to go out and find information, what are you doing? And you can select as many as are appropriate. We have people giving us their answers. It looks like right now, peer networks or professional groups would make sense for this audience, right? Online searches, and that's awesome, right? As long as it's vetted resources, which we'll talk about why that's so important in just a few minutes. Heather, there's quite a few people that are looking at AI, which is such a hot topic right now. And we have some folks putting comments in the chat, which is fine too, the library. Hope that's our library, but I guess we are big supporters of any library, so awesome. All right, we will give this just another second. I'm going to move on to our second poll. All right, thanks, guys. The next one is, in what area are you having the most difficult finding resources? You can just type it in. Again, you could use the chat if that's an easier option for you, or click on that link. So we heard, folks are looking on Google, they're going to the library, they're using AI. What area, like what are you putting in your search engine when you're trying to find resources? And what's coming up short?
What are your hot topic areas that you're not finding information from? That's what we want to know. Part of this is because we're curious, and then part of it helps us continue to build our content areas in topics that are meaningful for you.
And Janice put something in the chat, said evidence-based practices specific to rehab counseling. Yeah, that's hard, right? Oftentimes when you're looking at research, you want the last 5 years. And with rehab counseling, like sometimes we're lucky if we find something in the last 10 years that's relevant. So yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
And
Autism accurate information. Good. Go ahead, Heather.
I was just seeing, I see somebody putting VR updates as a provider, and that's something that we're getting a lot more inquiries on from those VR providers. And we're excited because we'll talk a little bit about some of the on-demand trainings, but there's an RSA grant being funded right now called the Center for Innovative Training in Vocational Rehabilitation, PATH, that is all about upskilling and training VR providers. So this might be a great time for you to check out one of their on-demand trainings that they're offering. But NCRTM can be a really great vehicle to help you make connections with these grants that are doing work that would tie into rate what you're doing. See lots of things coming in here into the word cloud now.
Yeah, I like this last one. Delineate reputable information from that, which is not so much. Journal peer-reviewed materials is restricted to members of those organizations. So yeah, how do you get resources without having to pay a fee to access it, or to be a member of that organization? So these are really great, you guys. It must be free. So that is one thing that we will continue to talk about with the NCRTM. So anything that is placed in our library is going to be free for you all, which is, a big benefit to coming to our library and using that website. So Heather, I think it's safe to close this out and move on to the PowerPoint.
Perfect. I'll bring us back to the PowerPoint. And Lindsay, you're up to start walking us through the site. We're going to start off with what we're most well known for, which is our NCRTM library.
Yeah, so the NCRTM library really is like the heart of the clearinghouse. So right now, and this number fluctuates from day to day, but right now we have more than 3,800 resources within our library. And that covers a wide range of topics related to vocational rehab and disability employment. A lot of you mentioned that you're interested in some of those lengthy reports or journal articles, and we do have that in there. But you'll also find resources in a variety of formats. So you'll see podcasts. So if you're somebody that likes to listen to information, or you have a burning desire to put one of these podcasts on when you're driving to work in the morning, you can do that and find that information on the NCRTM. You'll also find information briefs, you'll find articles, you'll find success stories, toolkits, fact sheets. So whether you're looking for something like more in depth or just a quick resource that you can use and share right away, there's different options available within the library.
One thing to mention about the library is if you want to stay up to date on what's coming out of the library, you can subscribe for library updates, and once a month you will get an email that shows all of the new items that have been added that month. And you'll see it varies month to month. Some months we might have 50 new things added, some months it might be 6. It just depends on what grantees are submitted. One other thing of note is anyone can submit materials to the NCRTM library. So if you're a researcher, if your organization has created a tool that would be beneficial to the disability community at large, you can submit that. And you can email us your materials as the best way. There is an online form, but because of some of increased security measures, that can be a little troublesome sometimes. So the easiest way is to email them, and we'll make sure you have our email at the end of the presentation. Good.
Yeah. And we will be talking about in a few minutes those free CRC credits. And if we have time at the end of this presentation and we ask Heather very nicely, she might do a demo for us to show y'all where to find that. So I really encourage you guys to spend some time exploring the library. There's a tremendous amount of information there that can support both your day-to-day work, but also your professional growth. All of those topics that you've identified a few moments ago, you can keyword search within our library and likely find some information that is relevant, that's been vetted. We go through these library materials regularly. So if something is outdated, you're not going to find an abundance of information that's not going to be useful for you. All right, so the NCRTM isn't just limited to materials that you can read or download. A lot of you are talking about those training opportunities. So let's talk a little bit now about training and events. So I'm hearing a common theme, right? Free is good. Thank you, Karen. We agree with you. And many of you are struggling to find high quality training that's actually relevant to your work that is also free. So one of the pages on the NCRTM is our training and events page, and it brings together learning opportunities from across the vocational rehab community. So you can find live events that are upcoming. And you can also find on-demand events that you can take at your leisure. And right now there's over 400 on-demand trainings that are available. Not all of them offer CRC credits. We will show you the ones hopefully at the end of today's presentation, but you can filter if you're only looking for those that have those free CRC credits. We also regularly add events from TA centers, RSA grantees, federal partners, and other organizations in the field. So if you all have a newsletter and we have not signed up for it, please let us know. We find a lot of the resources that we post for trainings, if they're relevant, by subscribing to your newsletters. And one thing that can be especially useful for rehab professionals is that, that professional development growth with those CRC credits. So it's a great place to check regularly and get those credits without having to pay for them. So now let's talk about accessibility. So Heather mentioned at the top of the hour that new additions, we have a fabulous, well-known 508 team. They are really at the top of their game. And that's one thing that we really are proud of, that we have these accessibility resources available to you all. And I'm just curious, maybe you guys can put some information in the chat. Why is accessibility important? Why are we even talking about this? What do y'all think? Or Section 508, which you see up there on the slide. Equal access to information. Not everyone is tech savvy. Yeah, those are probably the top two things that I would say, right? If you can't access the information, you can't access that opportunity, right? And Section 508 is the law. So we have a dedicated collection of Section 508 and accessibility resources on the NCRTM to help walk you through that process. And these range from like introduction tutorials to simulations that explain why accessibility matters and practical resources that you can use when doing your work. So a couple of the popular ones that get a lot of clicks on our page is we have a screen reader simulation video to demonstrate why accessibility is important. And making your documents accessible. And we have a dyslexia simulation video, amongst some other things. In addition, there's several quick guides and job aids for creating accessible Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel files, PDFs. We do have a free training on Section 508 that offers CRC credits that you can find on that page as well. We also have like federal standards and reference materials so it can serve as a starting point when you have like an accessibility question. So we mentioned anybody can submit materials into our library, but the materials that we post have to be accessible. So it's a great place to start, if you're wanting to submit something to our library as well. And then just kind of a side note, if you need more assistance than what you find on that accessibility resources page, and there's a lot of really in-depth information there and videos that can walk you through it, but New Editions Consulting offers really unparalleled service in helping businesses and companies implement Section 508 requirements and assess, remediate, and create accessible documents. So if you need a little bit of extra help or you just can't, you're not tech savvy, as Karen had mentioned, New Editions Consulting does that as well. Anything you want to add on that, Heather, or do you want to take a quick question break for folks?
Yeah, if you want to put some questions in the chat, that'd be great. This is a good time for it. And I just want to mention, like, when I've been working in the field a long time, and I really didn't know what I didn't know about accessibility until I started working for the NCRTM. And it can be one of those things that feels really intimidating and it can feel really scary. But if you think about the nature of the work we're doing, if we're making documents, if we're making training videos, if we're making our reports, and not everybody, including the people we serve, can access the information, I think that's just something that's so, so important, is that we keep accessibility in the forefront of our minds, and that we have plenty of starter resources here for you. Lindsay mentioned those job aids. Not only are the job aids there, but we added some supporting job aid videos too that can actually walk you through those job aids if you're more of a visual learner. So wanted to just make sure you knew that those things were aware. We had a question come in. It said it's a government-sponsored site through the Department of Education. Yes, that's correct. The NCRTM is a government site from the Department of Education. It's funded under the Rehabilitation Services Administration, and Lindsay and I, work with New Editions Consulting, which means we are the contractor who operates the NCRTM. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So technically, Lindsay and I are employees of New Editions, but New Editions is working with RSA. All right. And there's another question. Is there a language translator? Are videos presented in ASL? Captioning is not equal access for hard of hearing. So when NCRTM produces videos, especially trainings, we always have a sign language interpreter because we agree that is a best practice. But there are other folks who we put information on their site and they are not held to that same requirement. But if it is a training or event that we are hosting, an NCRTM training event, there will be a sign language interpreter. And a lot of our training videos, especially webinars, they do have interpreting overlay on the videos.
Good question.
Mm-hmm. And then we say, are all CEU CRCC approved? So the ones that are on our site, yes, are all pre-approved. I will say there are some that New Editions is what's the word, Lindsay? I don't want to say author.
Sponsor.
The sponsor of, and then there are others where we are sharing a sponsored activity from somebody else. So, like for instance, I just mentioned earlier in the presentation about the Center for Innovative Training for Vocational Rehabilitation, CITVR. So we have their trainings on our site and they offer CRC credits. So you will be able to filter and locate them. But New Editions is not the one that's issuing the CRC certificate for you. Now, you'll also go onto our site and you may find our, like Lindsay mentioned, the 508. We also have a very popular one called, oh my goodness, I can't even think about it right now. The Managing Counselor Workload Guilt. That is a New Editions one, and we do issue the CRC credit for that. Perfect. Diane says, do you think on the year 2026 that the world accepts individuals with disabilities with stigma? So we hope that progress is being made. I mean, that's what we're here. We're here to do the work and we're here to make things accessible and to continue to work for to share this work with the disability community. We had a question come in from Karen about what does the DIF acronym stand for. We are going to get to that right now, but DIF stands for Disability Innovation Fund. And Lindsay is going to talk us through a little bit about the DIF and what the Disability Innovation Fund program page on the NCRTM is.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect segue. We didn't even ask you to type that in the chat, Karen, and you just did that perfectly. So the NCRTM has specific pages in addition to just like the broader resources, which we've gone over. And what I want to talk through now is the Disability Innovation Fund, or DIF, program page. So what's one thing that you notice about this map that's on the screen? I noticed there's a whole lot of green on the map, right? And all of the states that you see that is highlighted green, oh, if your state is white, maybe you can advocate to get some disability innovation fund programs there. So all of the states that you see that are green have a disability innovation fund program in that state. So people often tell us that they want to learn about what's happening across the country or learn about innovative practices that are being done in different states so you can replicate it maybe in your state if your state is not highlighted green there. And on this Disability Innovation Fund program page, you can see what programs and projects are being done throughout the country. So this page brings information about current and past DIF projects together in one place. And you can search and filter the projects by state, by individual projects. You can see the actual work in the library that has been posted by these projects. So the map is interactive for you to be able to search and filter and find, even in addition to that, various contractor information or support that's being done for that state. Now, this is especially helpful when there's, like I mentioned, innovative projects that are happening across the country, right? We don't want to just say stagnant doing the same thing, right? Part of what we're doing is continuing to learn, to innovate, to grow. And we do that by finding what the most current research is that's out there and that's being done. And so you'll be able to see that through the Disability Innovation Fund. Heather, since somebody asked about it specifically, do you want to just share high level a little bit more about just the DIF overall?
Sure. I mean, the Disability Innovation Fund has several different iterations. If you hear about it, not through this presentation, you'll often hear it labeled by their grant number. So there's 84421C, D, E, and F. And so most of the time they'll just say, oh, I'm a Diff C, Diff E. But each grant has a specific purpose or a specific target audience that they're trying to work on. And the ultimate goal of all of the Diff grants is to improve competitive integrated employment outcomes for people with disabilities across the country. We know that the Diff C grants have an emphasis on career pathways. The D grants are looking at sub-minimum wage and moving people from sub-minimum wage to competitive integrated employment. The E grants are pathways to partnership. So they are looking at how are we connecting services. So we want to make sure VR is included, the Centers for Independent Living are included, and how can we better strengthen our partnerships to be able to lead to competitive integrated employment outcomes. And the DIF-F grants, which are the most recent iteration, they're currently in year 2 of their grants. They are focused on creating a 21st century workforce. And there's a lot of work being done with technology, with AI. There's been some really great success stories that are coming out. The American Printing House for the Blind created a device called the Monarch device that was actually featured in Time magazine, which is really neat. And that all came out of the Disability Innovation Fund. Go
Right.
on.
Hope that helps. All right, so let's move on to the services and programs page. So if one of your customers asks you, where do I start, right? Oftentimes, I know when I worked as a rehab counselor, I felt like my resources sometimes were limited to like the ONET, which is fantastic, right? But oftentimes that's just labor market information. Maybe we can find a couple of videos to show folks about what it might look like in that career, that industry. But it's kind of limited to just that. And this page is built exactly for that moment. So the services and program page is really targeted towards individuals with disabilities, but it can also be useful as a resource for VR counselors or other professionals that are working with folks with disabilities. And the page includes information related to employment, competitive integrated employment, career advancement, employment laws. One of my favorite things about this page, there's a little green button and it says find your local VR office. And so it doesn't matter if you're in California or Florida or Michigan, you can help direct somebody to their local VR office by clicking on that link, which I think is kind of cool. So anything you want to add about this page, Heather?
Yeah, just
What am I guess?
then it's a starting point. It's not meant to be this exhaustive list, but it is a starting point with most of the resources on the services and programs page come from federal resources. So they're going to be something that you can trust and that it's vetted.
Yeah, which goes for all of the information on the library. All right, so moving on to the business engagement page, this focuses on information and resources for businesses and employers, right? So dual customers, you've got the individual with the disability and you have businesses. And so this page focuses on them. It includes information about connecting with state VR agencies, along with tools and resources that can support businesses in hiring individuals with disabilities. So for VR professionals who work directly with employers or support business engagement efforts, which is probably all of us, right, working within the field, it's another resource that you can use for yourself or that you can share with business partners. So one point to make about kind of all of these pages that we've gone over with the NCRTM is it's not designed just for one audience. So Heather shared at the beginning, the different audiences that the NCRTM can help support. So there's resources for counselors, for customers or participants, businesses, providers, job coaches, researchers, VR leadership. There's a little bit in there for everybody. And last but not least, before I turn it back over to you, Heather, I want to talk briefly just about amplifying your products. So one of the roles of the National Clearinghouse is helping to amplify the great work that's already happening across the VR field. So you all already mentioned like, hey, I want to find resources that are vetted and valid and relevant and recent. And how do I go about doing that? Well, in part, it's all of us taking a little bit of responsibility and letting other folks know about it. So if your organization or agency has developed a useful product, a resource, a training, or even a success story, which we all love to hear about, there's several ways that your work can be shared through the NCRTM. So that includes our library, which we've talked a lot about today. But we also have our YouTube channel. We have X. We're doing a lot of stuff right now on LinkedIn. And Heather goes on a podcast once a month and shares some recent and relevant information on the podcast as well. So let us know, and there might be a way that we can help amplify the work that you all are already doing. So Heather, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Perfect. Do you want to kick off the poll?
I'd be happy to kick off the poll. All right, let's go to the next one.
Got a final poll for you today. And this is really just us wanting to know, what communication methods do you prefer for receiving updates and resources? So like if you're looking to stay abreast of what's going on in your field, how do you want to get that? Are you wanting to get it through an email or like a newsletter? Do you go to social media? Are you going directly to a program's website? Are you participating in online discussion groups or online forums, or are you preferring to attend live webinars or Q&A sessions? What is your preferred method? Looks like we have a pretty big slam dunk on the email newsletters. Yes, and we see a second with live webinars and Q&A sessions. That's exciting.
I'm sure if they offer CRC credits, that's like an extra bonus.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for filling that out. And it definitely seems like we have a pretty clear winner with email newsletters and live webinars. So that's great. I'm going to switch us back over to our PowerPoint so we can finish and talk a little bit more about NCRTM and staying connected and how you can get some information from us. The first and foremost, we want you to connect with us on social media. We currently have X, formerly Twitter, and we also have LinkedIn. So that's the best place for you to connect with us, and you'll be able to see what's coming out in the library. You'll be able to see some of those events that are featured on the training and events page. We've also been doing some features that show VR professionals and tell their stories and their employment journeys and talk a little bit about the why that we do the work that we do. So we encourage you to check that out. We also have the NCRTM YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, we mentioned that you will find some of those accessibility tutorials. You will find some of the other past webinars that we've hosted. We also have some conference sessions on there that from conferences that we've hosted in the past. There's a wide variety of resources that are there on the YouTube channel. So we encourage you to check that out. And then Lindsay's going to drop our email address in the chat. But the most important and the easiest way to connect with us if you have questions or want to follow up is the ncrtm@neweditions.net email address. Both Lindsay and I are checking that thing constantly. So we are always here to answer your questions. Sometimes we get folks who will follow up with us and say, hey, I'm working on with a new staff person and I'm trying to find a resource on X. And then we can put together some resources for you so we can pull things that are customized if you have some questions or would like some assistance with that. Okay, we want to talk through a little bit about one and done. Like what stood out from you the most? And then if we have a couple minutes, we'll take some questions. And then I do want to share, I think we might have a few to give you like a quick overview of the site because I really want to show you the library and I really want to show you the training and events page so you'll know how to navigate to those two places. So while I switch to the screen sharer, I want you to go ahead and think about your one and done and possibly share it in the chat. But first, I am going to switch over so we can just do a quick screen share of the NCRTM so you can see what that looks like and get a little bit more familiar with the actual site. So here we are. It looks like it's showing. When you land on our NCRTM homepage, some of the special content that Lindsay mentioned, she talked a little bit about our services and programs page. Down here, you will notice these tiles. You can directly access that services and programs page, the business engagement page. We also have links to join our network. We have a newsletter, but it hasn't been published in some time. It's kind of on pause for right now. We are using social media more and more, so we really encourage you to connect with social media, but you can look at previous editions of the newsletter on the website. This also, we can connect you with RSA's website. So we wanted to make sure you know that. But I really want to focus on getting to the library. You can search the library directly from the homepage, or you can navigate using the top navigation bar here at the top. I'm a creature of habit, so I always use the navigation bar and I will click library. We've been getting hit really hard with security, so it is running a little bit slower than what it has in the past. But when you land in the library, here in the center column, these are going to be the newest items that are added most recently. So you can kind of take a look and see what's out there. You'll see today we had some new training modules that were just put out from the Texas A&M University that you can register for. We have some different flyers. We have some success stories. We've got some perceptions from businesses. Um, I also wanted to zero in here on NCRTM curated lists. We have 26 different curated lists on certain topics. Our most recent one, which is here, is on navigating employment challenges beyond disability. So if you think you're helping somebody with a disability, that might be a barrier to employment. But some of the other frequent barriers that we see are things like transportation or working with people who are previously incarcerated. So there's other things that might shape that employment journey. And our curated lists are a resource where you can zero in on resources towards a specific topic area. I know earlier somebody mentioned information on autism. We have a whole curated list just focused on resources about serving individuals with autism. When you click on a resource, you will be navigated to the landing page where you can learn a little bit more about it. And then you can actually click on the site or the link to the resource, and it'll take you to the actual site where you can see all of the resources and a little description about what these are and how these particular challenges might affect the employment journey. So wanted you to know that those curated lists are there because it's a great starting point for you if you have a specific topic area. We're going to go back to the library. I just want to show you a couple quick things on navigating. We can use the filtering options. So you can filter by the topic area, by disability focus, even by target audience, material type, or by RSA grant. We mentioned a little bit about doing some work with the Disability Innovation Fund. Here you can sort by the different iterations, the C's, the F's, the E's, the D's, and you can zero in right on that. So we try to make it as easy as possible because you notice there is 3,800 items. So there is a lot there. So we encourage you to poke around and play in there and see if there's items that you can find. We also have the search up here where you can type in a keyword search. We mentioned earlier about subscribing to the NCRTM library for updates. You can do that by clicking this link here at the top, right under where it says library, and you can just add your work email to that and you'll get an update once a month about the new materials that are added to the library. You can also submit materials to the library. So we mentioned that anybody can submit materials. So you can use this online submission form, or you can also still email us at ncrtm@neweditions.net. And that's another great way to get us those materials. And then I want to take us to the training and events page because I know there was a lot of interest in those free CRC credits. So we'll navigate to the training and events page using this top navigation bar. And we will wait for the site. And here we go. So we have the training and events page. When you land on the page, you'll know that you'll see the upcoming events. The upcoming events are these live virtual events that you usually need to register for and that are going to be live. So it's at a certain date and a certain time. So we have a couple that are coming up. This virtual parent or virtual family engagement summit that's hosted by one of the parent training information centers. Doesn't have CRC credits, but could be very valuable. We have from services to earnings, progress on the VR return on investment project. So that one is worth a CRC credit. So if you're interested in that, you could click on it. And when you go to the landing page, it will give you a little description about what you can expect, and then you can click on the registration link and it will take you right to the registration link where you can register and enter your information. So we'll go back to the site, but we really wanted to make sure you knew how to find that information, because I know I am always looking for free ways to get my CRC credits. And then lastly, as we navigate back to the page, you can filter by on demand. I'm going to just go ahead and click on demand. The on demand are events that have either occurred in the past, so it might be a past video recording, or it may also be more formal. It may be something like a training module or an actual asynchronous online learning training that was developed that way, not just a past webinar. And you can sort by on demand. You can look up keywords. Again, you can search by disability focus or topic area. So we encourage you to visit this site. We do update the site on a regular basis. Whenever we're seeing events, we're trying to add them as quickly as possible. It's very helpful for us if people submit events. So if you're hosting, especially a virtual event that's free, we would love to be able to put it on the site so that other folks can register. We promote a lot of the events on social media so that folks know about them and can go. One other item I want to show you, we showed you the curated list in the library, but if you're interested in getting to those curated lists, up here at the highlight section on the top navigation bar, you can actually scroll down and see where it says NCRTM curated lists. You can click on that and it will take you to a landing page that has all 26 of our curated list. 27, I was off. Actually, I think there's 26 and we have a directory, so I don't think I'm wrong. But then you can just kind of see what our topic areas are. We mentioned the navigating employment challenges. We have one on AI that's pretty popular. Supported employment is another popular one. One of our favorites, if Lindsay and I had to have a favorites, is uh, the curated list for counselors or professionals new to the profession. That's like a great mini training curriculum for folks who are just kind of starting in this field. Here it is, resources for vocational rehabilitation counselors new to the profession. It's helpful because it kind of gives you this overview of a lot of the different topic areas that you're going to need to learn as a new VR professional. So that's just a kind of a starting point. But we broke it down by the history and foundation, casework tools, pre-employment transition services. There's just a variety of topics on here, and then each accordion has different resources available to you that you can use and to keep growing and developing. So there is a lot more to the site, so we encourage you to visit it. The accessibility resources page that Lindsay mentioned can also be accessed through the online top navigation bar. So we encourage you to go in and take a look at it. There's a lot of resources in there to help your work so that you can continue to grow. I'm going to switch back to our PowerPoint because we have just a few minutes and I want to make sure that you have access to some of the resources that we pulled for you. Here we go. We have our contact information. Lindsay and I shared a little bit about the NCRTM at neweditions.net. That's our inbox where you can email materials or have questions. Lindsay and I's email is also listed, so you can always feel free to reach out to either or both of us. We're happy to help you if you have any questions. We have to have this disclaimer on here just saying that how we're funded, so that's fun. Not going to read that out loud, but it's there. And then when you get your copy of the presentation, we have some sample library materials. These are some of the ones that people frequently come back and say that was really helpful to me. So we talked a little bit about that curated list, but we have a video. We also have some spotlights. We have some tips for folks that are new VR administrators, new VR leaders. So we just encourage you to take a look at some of these and see if they fit your needs. And it's just a starting point of some resources for you as you start to become a little bit more familiar with NCRTM. So I'm going to stop the sharing. And I think if we still have a couple, oh, we had a lot of activity while I was talking. Okay, so let's go ahead and we will see if we have a time for a couple questions. I see that Vicky has put some information in the chat to make sure that you complete your attendance. We get some comments on there. When was the NCRTM created? So, and yes, Lindsay, thank you. It's been around since the 70s, started as paper, so the website wasn't always available. I'm actually not sure when the website came online. That would be a really good question to ask. I'm disappointed in myself as a history nerd that I don't know that. Any other final questions before we finish up today?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Diane. I have a question. I've enjoyed your presentation. It's great information. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my question is, do employers still uh, frown upon the fact that a person may ask for workplace accommodations? And you do hear some people who are disabled who still stay in the workplace. They feel bullied or not accepted. What is the research showing in the current year about that? What are you finding? Because you work so much with the disabled population. And thank you.
Oh, sure. I think we can't really make a blanket statement on what any one employer thinks. I mean, I definitely think that we are seeing progress. There's a lot more resources coming out about how to support employers to kind of take away some of that fear, to take away some of that unknown. For a long time, it was that there just wasn't that kind of educational outreach happening, but we know that especially since WIOA passed and there's been that kind of focus on the dual customer. So we have the VR customers and we also have the business as a customer. And we know there's a lot more activity and efforts going into working with businesses, building partnerships with businesses to make sure that workplaces and work environments are as accessible as possible. Lindsay, anything you want to add on that?
Just that it's, such a personal decision. And I think educating yourself and your customer about the pros and cons, which a lot of that, you can find those resources within the library, would be a good first step.
Perfect. Well, we are right at about 1 o'clock, so we will turn it back to Andrea and Vicky to wrap it up. But just as a reminder, Lindsay put our emails in the chat, and we would be more than happy to answer your questions, or we do these outreach and overviews for other teams. So if you are interested in having us talk to your team, we're happy to do that too.
Okay. We would like to provide our sincerest gratitude to Heather and Lindsay for this wonderful and meaningful presentation on onboarding to outreach, how NCRTM supports VR professionals at every level. Heather and Lindsay, we really appreciate you guys, taking time out of your day to be here and to give us all this great information and on those free CEs. For those in attendance, we appreciate you joining us today. We would like to invite you to save the date for our next ARCA webinar, scheduled for the 18th of September, 2026 at 12. The webinar is titled, well, okay. The webinar is titled Job Retention Support for People with Disabilities Using AI. Cool. The registration information can be found on ARCA's website. We hope you'll consider joining us again. On behalf of the American Rehabilitation Counseling Association, we hope you have a great weekend and the rest of your day. Thank you.